Hello and welcome to another How Lou Sees It review. This evening I will be reviewing an excellent game for 1 to 4 players called Role Player from Thunderworks Games. It's an excellent game where you are creating the most reputable hero out there. You know, heroes don't just appear out of thin air. They must be created. And that's what you're doing in this wonderful game. Let's go ahead and show you some of the components that come in the game, maybe a little bit of how it plays, and then I'll get to my thoughts on the game. First of all, this box is pretty substantial as far as components go. It comes with a nice bag here with just over 70 dice. So lots and lots of dice in quite a few different colors here that you will be drafting into these wonderful character boards. Placing them in the boards and creating your characters, trying to get their stats to line up with your class, backstory. Really cool. So it has lots of different characters. We have elf, human, orc, dragonkin, halfling, and dwarf here. They're double-sided with a male and female picture on those. There's all sorts of coins. There's like 100+ cards that come in this game with either weapons that you can get, class, backstory, different traits that you'll establish. You know, are you going to be knowledgeable? Are you going to be clever? Or are you going to be deceitful? Those sort of things to help with that. So there's some smaller cards and some tokens as well to keep track of things on the board. But let's go ahead and get a little bit closer, show you how the game plays, and let you know what I think. All right, so I have here set up before you a solo game of Role Player to show you how the game is played a little bit, and yes, to show off a little bit of the solo game here. So again, I've kind of set everything up in a game of Role Player. Like I had mentioned, there are all these different characters. Very nice quality stuff. It's cardboard, but very nice. And it's interesting. So each of these do have a little bit of variation to them. So the human here you'll see is actually the one that starts out with basically everything as is, if you will. Let me show you one of the orcs here. You'll notice that they have a strength modifier here. You get to add +2 to your dice as you add up the attribute in this attribute row of strength. You're going to add up the pips on the dice. You're going to add those up, and you're going to add 2. And the intelligence is -2. So very thematic. It goes along with the races here. You can see here's another one, the dragonkin, +2 to strength, -2 to dexterity. And I'm playing with the elf here, who is +2 to dexterity and -2 to constitution. And in the setup of a game, there are, I can't remember which was which, there's like 16 or 17 different backstory cards and alignment cards. And in this solo game, I am a mentor, spent years as a master training the king's recruits for the Order of Knights. Now you've decided to leave your position and find your own brand of adventure. So it's really cool. That gives kind of a little bit of a story to your character. You can do it many different ways. You can just do it. It's fun to do it random and kind of see what comes up. For this solo game, I'll be playing as the lunatic as far as alignment goes. So at the end of the game, this is one way you can get points, is I want my alignment cube to end up down here in the bottom right corner, as far chaotic as I can be, as far evil. So he's maybe not the best mentor. I don't know. He's a mentor gone crazy, maybe without anyone to mentor anymore. And so it's fun to come up with some of those stories, but it starts in the middle here. And at the end of the game, you're going to score points where this is. So if it's here, I'm not going to get anything. 1 point, 1 point, 3 points. Or if it ends up over here, I'd actually get -3 points. The way to get points according to your backstory card is I want to try to align as many of these colors in my tableau here as possible. Okay, so my starting dice, you can see here, off to a decent start. I have a purple here matching, and at the end of the game, you'll score points equal to how many you match. So if you're able to match 2 to 3, you'll get 1 point, 4 to 5, 3 points, and if you can match all 6, I'll get 6 points. You can also do, it gives you multiple different ways here, but you can start by everyone drawing a die out of the bag. It will basically be one of the colors. There's 6 different colors, so there's 6 different classes. Well, actually double that. There's so each class is double-sided. So you can either be the cleric, or it could have been the paladin, and they each have different abilities associated with them. So the cleric gives you different ways of scoring points, how you fill up your attribute rows as you're collecting dice. So as I collect dice, I want my strength to add up to 14 or 15. If I'm able to do that, I'll get 2 reputation points. Dexterity, 16 or 17, 2 reputation, 15, 16. And again, I'm gonna need to add or subtract on my board here from my dice here, and hopefully it will put me in there. So it's important to remember those modifiers. Whenever you see this, 14 plus, so it needs to be 14 or greater. If it's a specific number, that means it has to be exactly that number. So I have to get 18 exactly, but I would get 4 reputation points. And it makes sense. They all make sense according to what class it is. So I am, of course, a charitable mentor who just happens to be a lunatic. And once per round, I can spend 2 gold to take the wisdom attribute action. Okay, and basically this is going to be the game here, is drafting dice into your attribute rows, and you are able to take that attribute action associated with that if you want to. So if I place a die in the strength column here, I can flip the die over. So I can flip the 3 to the other side of that, which would be a 4. And it doesn't need to be that die or anything. You can do that to any of the dice in here. Dexterity allows you to swap 2 dice in here, which again would be helpful for trying to get a certain number and or trying to get certain colors in certain areas. You can do the Constitution here is you have a die go up or down by 1. And not being able to like rotate. You can't go from like a 1 to a 6 with that. Intelligent, you're going to pick a die, you're going to re-roll it and place it back in place. Wisdom allows you to change your the alignment here, which we'll get to. Again, there's different ways that you're going to be able to manipulate this with the cards, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And Charisma gives you one of these little guys, and it allows you to purchase something from the market at a discount. If you don't use it at the end of that market phase, then it just gets removed. Okay. So let me show you just a quick solo round here. You draw dice out of the bag, and in a solo, you set up, this would be just like a 2-player game. Other than this is going to represent a kind of other player that I'm playing against for the solo game. But yeah, so we're going to give the dice that I pulled out a roll. And we take a look at them, and we're going to set them in the different initiative cards up there, okay? And we go from low to high. If there's a tie like we have here, whoever the start player, whoever has the die bag for this round is going to choose. I'm not exactly sure on this one. We're just going to place it like this, though. We go from low to high. Okay, and part of that is the initiative. You get to basically choose first from the market, but in order to do that, you're going to be taking a lower die, which generally is not going to be that great for you. Now, again, the strength is very unique because the opposite side of a 1 is a 6, which is very powerful. So the strength ability is very powerful with 1s, being able to flip those. So anyway, and then obviously if you're going to go last, as far as last choice, you're going to get the best die. So I really like that it balances that out. Okay. In the solo mode, it's very kind of unique. So depending on what I choose, if I choose like this die, I'm going to use this die, and according to the solo rules, I'm going to roll it, and some cards are possibly going to be removed if I take this, signifying someone choosing something. And if I go here, one of the cards is definitely going to be removed before I have a chance. And I really like the solo play, how it did that. And it's just works really, really well. But let's say I want this purple die. So I take this purple die, and I'm going to choose to place it somewhere. Let's go ahead and place it here in my strength. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my strength to flip that to a 6. Okay. Then it would go into, after everyone's done that, they've done the ability, they've taken any gold. So if you in the 2-player game, someone were to take the second initiative, they would get 1 gold. And I did fail to mention everyone starts with 5 gold at the beginning of the game. And later players actually get a little bonus there to balance things a little bit as well. But after everyone's chosen this, and it's very simple, you're going to choose that, you're going to modify your dice, move them, whatever. You're going to get into the market phase. And there's some different cards in here we'll go through. There are skill cards in here. So I can acquire acrobatics here for 3 gold. The cost is up here in the upper right. And what the skills do is you'll acquire them on the left-hand side. You'll keep them down here. If I can move my alignment cube up 1, I can then add 1 to the face value of 1 die, and then I would need to minus, go down in another 1 on my character sheet. And this is a skill, so I'm going to be able to do this multiple times in the game as long as I can move it up. So when I would use this skill, I could move it up. Now I'm going to want to move it back down at some point, right? And that's where being a cleric is helpful. I can use gold to actually move that back down. And eventually I'm going to be able to use this again. Because at the end of the round, the cleanup phase, basically you're going to be able to ready or basically be able to use this again. You can only do one, kind of renew one of these skills. Okay. There's also going to be armor. Okay. Basically, this is a set collecting portion of the game where, depending on the number of armor types that you can match, you're going to get certain reputation points for collecting certain kinds of armor. And you'll get bonuses if you match. So if I was red, I'd want to try to get that chainmail for sure. Okay. Some other cards in here are traits, which are really interesting. So a lot of them give you certain kind of more objectives for the, I was just laughing at the artwork on this card, for your game. So obnoxious. So, maybe I'm a cleric mentor who is a lunatic. Maybe it makes sense that he was also very, very obnoxious. You would gain 2 reputation for each attribute row with 3 of the same color die. So it gives you another scoring possibility there. Let's see if I can find, there's another trait, there's some armor, skill, armor. There's also weapons somewhere in here. Let's see. Oh, there's one. So the other type of card that's in the game is weapons, and they're just staged up here. And usually you can only, you only have two hands. So usually you're only able to have two weapons at a time. You can, get rid of something that you had previously if you find a cooler weapon down the line. But this one counts as an additional armor card for an incomplete set. So they do many different things. They manipulate or benefit the market row for you. Let's look at another one. Longbow, after placing a die in the final row of an attribute. So right here, you may take the attribute action an additional time. So let's use those abilities. Okay. Anyway, very, very cool things in these cards. Very cool. And that's basically the gameplay there is you're choosing a die, you're going in here, you're trying to match this, and there's so many different things you can do in the game. And I like that, it is kind of very solo play feel a lot of times because you're working with your die. The player interaction really comes from that choosing which die. So, I may look over and see a neighbor really needs that certain color, or, that's their die that's going to get them some bonus points, because you're also going to score some points for matching basically your color die. So anyway, a lot of the player interaction becomes with, do I take the low die to go first because I really need something here? Do I go last and get that, 6 that I need, or whatever the high die is? But then the player interaction really is more of that kind of fun storytelling thing, where we talked about this obnoxious card. Seems to fit my character really, really well. So, maybe I'd fork out, the 5 coins to get that card. Now, you can also, in the market phase, if you don't have anything, but you're like, man, I really don't want the red player to have this, you can discard a card from the row and acquire. That's one way to get more gold. So you get 2 gold. The other thing with gold dice, so let's say we had a gold die actually out here as a choice instead of that black die. Whenever someone gets one of these die, the gold dice, because it doesn't match with one of the colors, instead of, it's really not that helpful in some regards that way, it gets you money. So if I place this gold die anywhere, it's going to get me 2 money for placing that. Okay. And there's really cool things like I think there's the thief in there, gets actually 4 money for each of these dice instead of 2. Whenever you fill up an attribute row, so if I got this and I placed it here, I would finish this, I would get a gold for finishing that row and 2 gold for placing that die. So there's bonuses there for that. And yeah, so that's basically Role Player. And it is so much fun. I really, really enjoy it. I've been playing some Sagrada on my phone recently, and it's really, really kind of a similar concept as far as the dice, but it's more abstract. And I love all the different layers that Role Player adds to this simple idea of trying to get the dice to match what you need, add up to the certain value here for your backstory, for your class here, your backstory, the alignment. There's just so many different things to kind of consider in the game, and what are you going to go for? And yeah, do I take a low die that's the color I want to match here, or do I go for a high color? And you just have to try to balance that. It's a very kind of puzzly game. But what's amazing is I think they're, for a lot of people, player interaction is really big. And, people sit down, they want to be able to play a game with other folks and feel connected and have those choices, maybe impact one another. There's not quite as much of that in this base game of Role Player. But like I said, it comes from like these actions. There's, I'm not choosing an action to take a die from a player or anything like that. And honestly, I think that would be very, very frustrating because I have my puzzle that I'm working on, and it can be really frustrating if there was too much interaction. It would feel too like swingy almost with, it's like I had a plan. So I actually like that there isn't a whole lot here as far as impacting one another directly on what they've chosen to do. But really, it's interesting the decisions that come up here. Do I just get rid of a card, or do I take a card that I know my opponent, it would be really beneficial for them? Or is getting that higher die more important? Or do I go in the middle, somewhere in the middle, and get some more gold? And it's just, so there's a lot of great interaction there, but then just the storytelling and the kind of fun that comes from, coming up with these different traits or different things. We have different sets there. Here's another trait, foolish. So, gain 2 if either of your intelligence or wisdom attribute is 8 or less. So, for me, this would be terrible because I'm trying to get 18 wisdom. So this really isn't a great card for me. But, if someone else, it would be really good, and they're just really I was like, you know what? I'm going to discard this and get 2 gold. So there is a lot here, and it's really, really great game. I do enjoy it a lot. The drafting aspect here with the dice, I think is really, really interesting. And just the balance of everything, the thematics that went into it, the tons and tons of different combinations of backstories, alignments, and then you have, you had 12 different class types as well with the different characters. So cool. I just really, really like Role Player a lot. Like I said, it has this great solo mode, and it goes from 1 to 4 players. I'm very excited to hopefully I can get my hands on the expansions. There are a lot of expansions for Role Player now. I say a lot, maybe 3, I think. And they all look amazing. And there's some other games come out. Lockup is one, and Cartographers is another one. I hope to get my hands on those as well because they play kind of in that same universe. Very different games, but there's just a lot out there, and I highly encourage you to check out Role Player by Thunderworks Games. You can find out more at thunderworksgames.com. And I really, really enjoy this and highly recommend it. That is how Lou sees it.